Oke, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Teman-teman sekalian, sebagaimana yang teman-teman ketahui, kita sekarang sudah mulai pembelajaran tanpa tatap muka alias online. Nah, dalam kesempatan hari ini saya akan menyampaikan video materi perkuliahan untuk 3 kelas sekaligus gitu ya. Untungnya semuanya temanya adalah perdagangan internasional. Tapi karena ada satu kelas yang seharusnya saya deliver dalam bahasa Inggris, nah maka supaya efisien, saya akan memulai kelas ini atau saya akan mengantarkan kelas ini dengan bahasa Inggris. Jadi untuk teman-teman sekalian yang berada di rumah bisa mengakses video ini via MAS dan juga bisa lewat akun YouTube saya. Nanti akan ada channelnya di bawah ini. Dan ya, stay safe, stay healthy, dan mudah-mudahan teman-teman bisa tetap mengikuti pembelajaran dengan baik. Okay, so according to the syllabus, we are going to enter the political economy of free trade. So this is actually the extended version of the syllabus. So I'm going to present several of my works with regards to regionalism and regionalization in ASEAN especially. So what is regionalism? What is regionalization? I will tell you later. But for a brief introduction, a brief overview what we have learned before in the previous weeks about international trade. So international trade is actually we are seeing the concepts of interactions between countries, and within the international trade we also see how the comparative advantage as a sole distributor of the trade relation among countries, and then moving forward to External-Olin theorem, and also the standard version of the External-Olin theorem with regards to the Rybczynski theorem, the Stolper-Samuelson theorem, and so on and so forth. So with this regards, we're also going to see what is actually the relation between trade and also investment activities, which is actually quite very much overwhelmed by the interaction between countries. So we have the investment, we have the trade as an axis. So in this return, so with regards to our title, regionalism versus regionalization. So what is regionalism? What is regionalization? So to make it concise, regionalism is actually the process that is driven by institutions. So it's actually an institution-driven process, while regionalization is market-driven process. So the similarities between these two concepts are, if we see the locus of regionalism and regionalization is actually happening within the same cluster of countries within the same region. So it's actually based on the region, as the name suggests, regionalism and regionalization. But as I told you before, regionalism is more to institution-driven, while regionalization is market-driven process. With that in mind, so which is better? Now, this is the one that we are going to dig deeper. But according to my hypothesis, regionalization is actually is not offering you sustainability in the future because it's market-driven. It's different when we have institution. We have regionalism, we have institution-driven process. So with this regards, my book, Trade Strategy in Asia from Regionalization to Regionalism, is actually suggesting that we need, or the countries or the clustering focus need to move. We need to have a certain mobility from regionalization towards regionalism, because regionalism offers you sustainability in the future. So before moving forward, it's better for us to understand what is the concept of trade liberalization that is actually serving as the basis of regionalism and also regionalization. So trade liberalization itself is actually the way or the process towards dismantling all kinds of protectionism that covers tariffs, quotas, and also non-tariff barriers. So why we have that? Because First, we are going to have the promotion, of international specialization. Then, it will also create the positive signaling, towards all the region. So, if you remember that I have mentioned it to you before, the Baldwin's domino theory. So, with this positive signaling effect, this will create other also to also include in the regionalization and also the regionalism process. So positive signaling effect is actually the key. Moving forward, integration of economies. It is actually made possible by the increasing reliance of each other. Now we're going to see, and we are actually in the first of seeing globalization on a threat of deglobalization. So instead of having globalization, we have deglobalization. But before we have the trend of deglobalization, actually between countries we have more or less integrated environment. Although nowadays we are actually having and posing, and the world is now actually under a threat of deglobalization. Not to mention that the COVID-19 phenomena is actually also as alarming shock for the globalization process. So with that in mind, so we need to be careful. We need to actually utilize globalization so that even the emerging markets nowadays, which is actually moving forward, which actually becomes the proponent of the new proponent of free trade, as opposed to the Western countries that now is seeing free trade as their enemy. So now it is actually our time. This is actually the Asia time. This is actually the ASEAN way, the ASEAN time, the Asian century, which is actually very much to do in the future. So we need to utilize this concept of globalization in order to put a big meaning on economic growth. So integration of economies again is made possible by technologies and also the lowering cost of logistic because of technological advancement. Reasons of having free trade. So within free trade agreement of the trade liberalization is actually, as I mentioned earlier, with the technological advancement, we have the decreasing cost, we have also the difference in utility. Why we have the gains from trade? Because each country can produce and can have their own specialization, that actually coming from the basis of monopolistic figure of the market. So because of the monopolistic situation, we have the more or less heterogeneous product, and with that in mind, we have differences in demand coming from each countries. So with that, we have also the increased competition. There is also accelerating the gains from trade. Okay, so now we are moving to the case study.